Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make a little ornament of one of my favorite characters from the Zelda franchise, the Korok. For this particular ornament, I decided to create a backpack Korok, mainly because I find how hilariously big their backpacks are compared to their tiny little bodies, but also because I wanted an excuse to make my favorite Korok. I found a bunch of pictures online and decided that I wanted to try to keep the design as simple as possible, so I did leave out some of the smaller details but kept the general characteristics. Also, I apologize for how poorly placed my lighting is. This is my first video, so I was super excited to film it, but completely forgot to check to see if the lighting was even. Anyways, here are some of the tools that you can use to make this ornament. This is fabric glue and works very well, especially if you're gluing sequin onto fabric. There's also basic hot glue gun, which is my weapon of choice for making ornaments, as this does dry quicker. However, sometimes I will use fabric glue for smaller details, as it seems to be less messy and it isn't as bulky when it dries. Since I'm working with felt paper, I like to use embroidery floss, mainly because I sew these ornaments by hand and also because it makes the decorative features stand out more. We're going to start with the backpack first, or I guess this is actually more of a rucksack. I chose the light brown color for the body, but I've seen burgundy online before and it actually looks pretty cool, but because I'm boring and basic, I decided to go ahead and play it safe and go with this color instead. But also because I don't have burgundy colored felt paper. As you guys have noticed, I tried cutting the felt with an X-Acto knife, but it didn't really pan out the way I wanted it to because I couldn't cut it all the way through, so I ended up just using a regular pair of scissors. Since the X-Acto knife is brand new, I assume that maybe it might be too small, so I'll probably attempt to use a bigger one in the future. We're gonna make a new template for the bottom of the bag. For this piece, we're going to use the darker brown color, which nicely contrasts with the body of the bag. We're now going to decorate the bag by adding these lines to the side just to give it the illusion of seams. Since this is a decor, my stitches are longer than they typically are, but by no means am I an expert at sewing, so my stitches might be kinda crooked, but as long as I try my best to keep it consistent, I've noticed that it gives it the illusion of being uniform. Or so I like to think. We're also going to sew the bottom of the bag to the body, but only sew the top part of this piece because the bottom will eventually be sewn together, but later on. So now I'm going to move on to the flap. I'm using the same dark color as the bottom of the bag. Once that's cut out, I made a template for the decorative piece that will sit on top of the flap. I also added 2 buttons to the flap as decor pieces. I did make a second piece for the flap so that I could hide all the imperfections underneath the first piece. I don't know why, but it seems like the bag looks more legit when the pieces are thicker. Now I'm going to glue the flap to the back of the bag, making sure that I don't glue the button side down yet. Eventually, I will glue that side down, but that'll be later on once we assemble the bag. For now, I set the bag off to the side because we're going to start working on Makar. You can use other Korok designs for this ornament, but I personally wanted to make Makar because The Wind Waker is one of my favorite Zelda games. Once I cut out his body, I'm gonna glue some stripes onto him. This will help him look more, I guess, wood-like, since, you know, they're wood creatures. I trimmed the excess felt, and here's what it looks like when everything is trimmed off. I set his body off to the side because I'm gonna make his face. Well, it's actually a leaf mask, but I'm probably just gonna call it his face in this video just to keep it simple. To save time, I went ahead and sewed the design to the leaf, but also because I lost the video for it, so sorry. I started working on his face by using these 2 button sizes for his eyes. I sewed on the remainder of his face, but I wasn't happy with how it actually ended up looking, so I redid the whole thing. I'm gonna sew the pieces of his face together and then stuff it with polyester fiber fill. Since it's a leaf, I didn't want it to look too puffy, so I was very conservative with the filling. Once I glued his face onto his body, I went ahead and sewed the body together and stuffed it. And voila, he's done! I'm gonna go ahead and glue him onto the bag and sew on bag handles around his stubby little arms. I sewed the bag together but left the top open so that I could stuff it later on. I started making the accessories found on the bag. I rolled up a piece of felt to make the sleeping bag and then I glued it onto the back of the flap, making sure not to accidentally glue on the top of the bag together. We're gonna make the branches by using real sticks that I found outside. I glued green felt shaped like leaves to the stick and then glued pom-poms for the berries. Or at least, I think they're berries? I made this walnut-shaped light that hangs off the side of the bag. Then I made his camping mug or cup, whatever you want to call it. For this piece, I actually ended up using blanket stitches instead of running stitches. I don't typically like using this type of stitching, not because I don't like how it looks, but it's just more difficult for someone like me who's a complete amateur to hide like all of my imperfections. Which is why I prefer the running stitches, because then it gives the illusion that I'm actually doing a decent job. I closed up the cup and added a handle. Now we're going to assemble everything together, so I made the light and cup appear as if it's dangling from the bag by simply using the thread. You can do this a variety of ways, like making straps out of the felt paper, but I decided to use thread instead. I eventually glued the cup and the light down to the bag just to keep it from moving around too much. Last but not least, I stuck one of the sticks inside the bag and glued the other one to his cute little stubby arm. And there you have it, a cute little ornament to hang up on your tree. Now, I did make a different version of this with different colors to experiment a little bit. I even used different accessories such as his violin. This is all to say that you can customize this anywhere you want. Thank you guys for watching my video and happy crafting!